Hello internet friends, my name is Lindsay or LiJo, and today we are going to be ranking 16 personalities with high school superlatives. This is a video that I've seen across the internet in terms of ranking. I've seen Nathan Glassdude on the Love Who channel for 16 personalities. We're gonna give it a shot. I can't promise anything, but we're gonna see how it goes. A very different kind of video for me. So let's hop right into it. All right, so I pulled a list of high school superlatives because it's not something I know a ton about. I do know my high school superlative as a senior was most musical. So that should probably be no surprise. So we're gonna start with a nice, easy one to get it going, life of the party. And throughout this video, yes, it's going to be full of anecdotes, but I'm gonna do my best to explain them using the cognitive functions. If you don't know what those are, I have lots of videos about them as well. So here we go. All right, life of the party, let's have a good time, right? I think the most highly likely person to get life of the party is going to be our friends, the ESFP. A few reasons behind this. Extroverted sensing is experiential, and FI is self-directed in terms of what they like and enjoy. So if they are there, they're there for the experience, they're liking and enjoying the vibe, they are going to be vibe creators in their own regard. So the ESFPs, I think, are going to be high on that list. Now, let's bring up our friends, the ESTPs. I think they would be a close second. I'm going to put them in the highly likely category as well. Again, the same reasons for extroverted sensing and self-directed nature of having either FI or TI. TI is going to be doing it for their own reasons. I think that they would be highly likely to get this as well. Should be no surprise there. Next, I'm going to actually put on let's see, I think the ESFJ, probably a different kind of party, but they would probably actually pull off a rather good party, even in high school. Creating vibe, using their extroverted feeling function to make something that everyone likes, everyone thinks is cool. I would put the ESFJs up there. Now, in the likely category, I'm gonna throw out an ENFP up there, just because they're wild and they're kind of funny, you know? So I could see them getting voted into that role. The extroverted intuition function that they have first, it's very imaginative and creative, and I think they're cool without trying to be cool, you know? Next, I would say ENTPs sometimes. They're cool in their own regard as well. I think the ISTPs could also be a sometimes. They would probably pull off one good party a year, you know? I'm saying these like I ever went to a high school party. I didn't. In that case, I'm putting INTJs here at the bottom. Rarely. INFJs, again, using the extroverted feeling function, they know what people like. Not that they have any effort to do it, probably not, but we're gonna throw them up there anyway. ISFJs, they probably haven't come into their prime of party making yet. That will probably come in high school or in college and after that, but we're gonna throw them here in the sometimes category. And INFPs, maybe sometimes. ISFPs, they might be ones to throw off a good party once or twice a year. And the EJs in general, I mean, I'm actually not putting them high on this list. So, okay, so that's what we're gonna stick with for this category. All right, so next we're going to move on to most likely to cure the common cold. Now, I have someone in my mind that I'm thinking for this to be highly likely. The INTPs, I would say highly likely to cure the common cold. Namely because if their TI has been set on stacking information in this particular area, and they have the beauty of the creativity of the extroverted intuition, I would say they would be my most likely candidate. I would also say the INTJs could be up here as well. We like to dabble in the medical side of things and also the solving of problems. It's a very NT type of category. That being said, I'm going to throw the ENTPs up here in likely. Again, the solving nature of curing the common cold, we're not looking at SF vibe. We're not looking at NF kind of vibe, right? More abstract vibe. This is very solving oriented, which has to do a lot with those NT functions. The ENTJs probably wouldn't be that interested in doing this, but perhaps. So we're gonna put them in this sometimes. Now, rarely, I would say the ISFPs would not be as interested in this. ISTPs, I could see sometimes, perhaps. ESFJs, probably not. ESTJ, I could see a very analytical, if you got to the data point of solving, an ESTJ actually being able to take it from there with extroverted thinking first and introverted sensing analysis of known parts of information. Let's see. Do I want to throw any other types in here? No, I don't. So we're gonna move on to the next category. All right, next, most likely to win the lottery and to lose the ticket. My goodness. Those of you with SI fourth in your function stack, I'm looking at you ENFPs and you ENTPs. I would say highly likely. Maybe the ENFPs a little bit more so than the ENTPs. I would say actually the sensory saviors are probably not going to be the ones to lose the ticket. More aware of what is in the real world. So I'd say the ESTPs would be unlikely. ESFPs would be rather unlikely as well. Let's actually just throw all these sensory savers as kind of unlikely. Again, very anecdotal, but at the same time, when you're aware of the physical world, whether that's in the spectrum of sensory, extroverted sensing, or the specific nature of it, introverted sensing is probably the least likely to be losing anything in general. So we can all learn from them. All right, and I would say INTJs maybe on occasion, same with INFJs, ENTJs, yeah, and then I would see INTPs and INFPs would be a likely. All right, so next category we're going to hit is best car. We're gonna give a little bit of love right now to the ST types who are aware of the sensory, keeping track of it, and also the SI types. So do you know what we're gonna put in here for the best car? We're gonna put the ESFJs and the ESTJs along with I'm gonna put the ISTJs as likely. You know, ISFJs, I'm gonna put up there as highly likely. Just because again, they're using the FE function, a little bit more in tune with what is liked. Now, all of these types on here have introverted sensing as a savior function. So the pristine nature of upholding a standard for sensory, it's high. Now, of course, we can't leave out the ESTPs here because you know that they have found what they've determined to be really cool and great on the spectrum of sensory. So this is using extroverted sensing. It's looking at all the different kinds of cars and they're finding the one that they think is the best. It has the best things in whatever their TI category has determined them to be important to. The ESFPs, likely, actually I want to put them more in the sometimes. FI can be very subjective in terms of what it likes. So whether the spectrum is going to consider it the coolest car, can't say for sure. Now all the other types, I would say ENFJs, I'm going to put them in likely actually. I feel like the ENFJs would have kind of cool cars because again, having that FE first, they are in tune with what everyone else likes. And then they would probably find some kind of creative option in there with that. Also the ISFP and the ISTPs, I'm gonna put in sometimes, depending on where they've ranked it in the scale of importance to them. All of these other ones, I'm gonna say probably rarely. As an INTJ, I drove a station wagon so I could fit my upright base inside of it. You think I was cool? You think my car was cool? No, it wasn't. That's okay though. All right, we're gonna move on to the next category. Best comebacks. Now I have a particular type in mind. Do you know what type I'm thinking of for best comebacks? I am thinking of actually the NP types, in particular, the ENTPs, I think would be particularly good at this, and the INTPs. And do you know what? I'm gonna put the ISTPs as likely. A lot of the TIs will have great comebacks. Now, there'll be a great comeback as it relates to that particular area of information. Maybe not considered great, but I think they're great comebacks. So, not like I'm voting for this, but I think it would be seen that these people have pretty good comebacks because if they're speaking in that area of information, they have stacked brain knowledge on top of it. I'm gonna put the ESTPs in here as well. I wouldn't say I have particularly good comebacks. They can be kind of witty sometimes, so I'll put INTJ in here. I'd also say ENFPs would be a sometimes as well in terms of having a good comeback. Is there anyone's INFPs? I think would meet the mark as a sometimes here. I would say ISTJs would probably be the least likely to have a good comeback. Sorry, ISTJs. Same thing with you, ESTJs. Where are you? Here you are. Yeah, probably not the best of the best comebacks, but do you know what? You have the best car, so just, leave some for the rest of us. All right, next we're gonna move on to class activist. Who do you think is gonna shine here? I'm gonna say it's the NFs across the board, particularly the FE versions of the NFs, whether that's the INFJs or the ENFJs. Class activists, we're gonna put highly likely with our ENFJ friends and the INFJs as well. I would say, actually my best friend in high school, my only friend in high school, was an INFJ, and I didn't know at the time because I didn't know anything about typology, but now she is one of the top activism people in my previous state for this particular area of social work and legislation, and she's killing it. Just do it. It's fantastic. So I would say actually ISFJs in here as well too. A little bit different in their approach sometimes, but they are big advocates, I would say overall, the ISFJ types. ESFJs, possibly likely. Also, I would put the ISFPs here if it's a category that's near and dear to them. I think that they would be high on the activism scale, as well as I put INFPs in here as well. I say ENFPs sometimes, INTJs sometimes. I would say unlikely ESFPs. The TJs probably very unlikely in general. ENTPs I think sometimes. ESTPs probably not. INTPs, ISTPs, meh. All right, we're gonna do one more category to wrap up this video. We're gonna do the class flirts. My goodness, something I was certainly not. Okay, so I think highly in this category, there's just something about the ESTPs and the ESFPs that is just sensual, flirtatious, juicy, There's just something about them that they exude those vibes. So I'm going to put ESTP up here and ESFP. They're just good flirts. They just do this thing that is attractive to people. Because it's like this kind of like self-confidence in their particular area. They're aware of the sensory, so they're probably decently attractive, especially in high school where everyone is like not that great, I would also probably put the ENFPs up here. They can be kind of flirtatious as well. And all the other types I feel like are going to be under ranking. I think the ENFJs can be a bit flirtatious, not the ENTJs, sorry, rarely. INTJs, rarely. ISTJs, rarely. ISFJs, they might be a little bit better than your other IJ types. ESFJs, probably not terrible. ISTPs, they're probably not into their own yet, so probably rarely. INTPs, they're too busy playing video games. INFPs sometimes, I would say. ISFPs also sometimes. ESTJs, nah. ENTPs probably sometimes. And INFJs sometimes, probably as a joke. All right, so we're gonna do one more category because I have to give a little love to the people like myself when I was in high school. So this category is called most intellectual, AKA you're a nerd and we all know it, but we're trying to say it nice. Now this goes out to my music nerds, my band nerds, my mathletes, my debate team friends. Listen, there has to be a superlative for us. So this is it. So we're gonna hit most intellectual. All right, so starting off, do you know what, INTPs, you get some love. I'm gonna say highly likely. Again, a lot of the NT types we're going to put up there. Just generally more interested in solving things. Now, actually, the ENTPs, though they're very smart, they might not be perceived as being as intellectual at a high school level. They kind of build and come into their own in that over time, but perhaps, so we'll put them up there. The ENTJs generally do pretty well in school, as well as the ESTJs are going to come across as generally studious. ISTPs sometimes it takes them a while to kind of come into their own and determine their own direction that they want to dominate in. Usually that kind of comes a little bit after high school. And then they would probably be seen as top in this category. But we're keeping high school in mind here. ISTJs, I would say sometimes. ENFJs, intellectual, probably rarely. INFJs, possibly sometimes. Again, going between their FE and TI. I could see that TI activating a little bit here. ESTPs, probably not here. INFPs, probably not being seen as intellectual. Same for ISFPs. ENFPs. ISFJs, probably not being seen as intellectual. Same with ESFJs. All right, so that's gonna be the last category we hit. Again, there are so many anecdotes in all of this, but I hope what I was able to share with you as it relates to cognitive functions gives you a little bit of context to how those are perceived. And especially back in high school when, I'm sorry, but high school was awful. Like if you were a type like mine, an NT type, I mean, high school was just absolutely terrible. I think I hid for almost my entire high school experience in the music room. But that was a great place for me to practice, get better at my instrument, and excel in that particular way. But you see all these people who are comfortable navigating the flirting spectrum and the cool car spectrum and this kind of stuff, and you just don't feel as though you rank because you probably don't. But that's okay because you get out of high school and there's more places for people like you and myself. So if you're in high school, keep at it, it gets better. If it sucks now, it gets better. And that's it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed this different sort of video and I will see you in my next one. Bye, internet friends.